Hello lovelies, and welcome to Squeaky's Cauldron, or welcome back if this is not your first time here. Thanks for coming to my little weird witchy corner of the internet. I'm your host, Sarah Evergreen, and today we're going to be talking about the magic of Mary Magdalene, Jesus' bestie, the apostle to the apostles. She is a juicy character to dive into, for sure. If you haven't already checked out the Mary versus Mary video that I released yesterday that goes into some of the differences between Mary Magdalene and the Mother Mary or Virgin Mary. These are two characters that, despite having been raised in the church, so to speak, I definitely still had some confusion around. So go check that out. And before we get into this video about Mary Magdalene, if you are enjoying these videos, please like, comment, share, subscribe. Let everybody know what you're watching and how awesome it is. And if you're interested in working with me, I do have some coaching slots available. So go over to www.squeakyscauldron.com/coaching to find out more. I will also leave a link for that in the description. All right, now on to Mary Magdalene. I'm just going to give a quick overview here to get a little bit deeper into it. Again, go check out that other video, Mary versus Mary. But essentially, Mary Magdalene was Jesus's best friend, his right hand. Some say that he was married to her. That they were married, rather. That this was an equitable relationship. I mean, talk about, like, beautiful, healthy, masculine and feminine dynamics at play. The two of them were a fucking power couple, if there ever was one. So Jesus is out there doing his thing, like preaching his preach, saying his words, hitting the streets, and Mary is right there with him. She finances a lot of what he does from her own pocket because she believes in what he's teaching. And so he, not because of the money, but because of her devotion and her, I think, faith in what he's teaching, like he trusts her so much. And she does him as well. They are tight, real tight. She was even meant to head the Christian church after Jesus died. But Peter and his fragile male ego got in the way of that. Again, if you want to know more about that, there's tons of resources. Look into the Gospel of Mary. This is an apocryphal text from the Bible, which means that it's not actually included in the Bible. It's not canonical, which happens with a lot of these texts that have things in it that maybe the current Orthodox or organized aspects of the church don't really want the public to get their hands on because they might mess up the power structure a little. So they're worth a read, can be fun, but we're not going to go into that aspect of Mary because I want to talk about Mary's magic. Yes, what kind of magic can she help you with? What kind of archetypes and essences can she help you embody to become a bigger, better, more beautiful version of yourself? The first aspect I want to talk about is sex magic. As you all know, this is a topic very near and dear to my heart. If you haven't, you can go check out the series of videos that I did about sex magic's history, practice, and interview. Yeah, definitely look at those, and I will be referring to some of the content in those a little bit later on in this episode as well. So when we're talking about Mary Magdalene, I'm not talking about the historic figure so much as I'm talking about the archetype that she has become. Because this is the energy that we work with. Whenever we work with a deity, we're working with the archetype of that energy. And because we're working with an archetype rather than a historical figure, what happens is that there are times when an aspect or an energetic pattern is aligned with a particular deity, or in this example, a historical figure that isn't actually accurate. But because of that alignment and because those two things have existed in the same space for so long, they do become intertwined. And so it is the case with sex magic, in part because for a long, long time, Mary Magdalene was conflated with the sex worker who washed Jesus' feet. They're not the same person. However, because they've been so interconnected, intertwined, that energy has become part of the Mary Magdalene archetype, for better and for worse. Like, the Catholic Church used that as a reason to say that women can't become priests because, again, Mary Magdalene was the right hand of Jesus, but she was a sex worker? Oh no, we're having none of that. So there's been a lot of ways that this has been used to oppress women, particularly within the scope of organized religion. However, like all things, there is a shadow side that we can look at and explore and try to dismantle in as loving and compassionate way as we can, but there's always also a light side, and that light side can do so much work in dismantling that dark side because we get to reclaim the shadow and bring it into ourselves as power instead of something that we're going to let someone else use against us. So in this case, with the aspect of the sex worker with Mary Magdalene, like, we have the option now to claim that, to claim the sacredness of sex for ourselves and in our relationships, even just our relationship with ourselves. On top of that, Mary Magdalene is very much an archetype of divine feminine, and when you work with the divine feminine, you're always going to be working with some aspect of sex magic because that is the creation energy. The sex and that attraction, it allows things to be birthed, and that's very much aligned with this sacred feminine energy. Of course, this is not gendered. We all have access to both sacred masculine and sacred feminine and sacred neutrality energy, the energy of the Holy Spirit, which is completely non-gendered, like all the way up and down. Of course, with the sacred feminine and the sacred masculine, you know, we get into some dicey territory sometimes when we try to parse that out and I think use it as ways to divide one another. But like, we've all got all of those energies within us. Access to everything. So when I'm talking about the sacred feminine, I'm not talking about women. I'm talking about the sacred feminine. Mary Magdalene has been associated with Isis, Inanna, and Ishtar worship. So again, like, there was a lot of sex magic and sex priestess work that went on within these cults. There's no historical, like, one-for-one relationship between the two of them, but I do think that it's interesting to think about, and definitely not outside the realm of possibility. The history that we have has been written by a particular group of people that had a particular aim, and a lot of the history has been lost completely. So yeah, sure, it's possible, and why not? Her energy, at the very least, does encompass this fertileness and this willingness to work on the physical plane, which is very much Mary Magdalene. Like, she had her boots on the ground. She was with Jesus. She did these things, and she provided an earthly resource to him so that he could further his teachings. She can be called upon whenever you're entering into any kind of sex magic, but I think she's particularly powerful when you are working with sex magic that's aimed at any kind of education or bringing esoteric knowledge to people. That's what she did in her life, and I think that that's what she can help you in as an archetype and as a spirit to work with. In that same vein, she is a great deity to call upon when you are looking to embody your priestess archetype. When you need to teach, when you need to lead, and you want to lead from a place that's like really deeply rooted and coming up from that creative part of your body, you know, where we all have that creative fire stoked, if you want to pull that energy up, she's a great one to call upon. Going back to her being Jesus's right hand and being meant to lead the church after he died, like, she was also gifted visitations by Jesus after he died. So he came to her and he spoke with her. And so she's got this strong ability to stand in front of people and lead and inform and teach. And if this is something that you are looking to do in your life right now, you can call upon her for her support there. So how exactly would you go about doing that? I think step one is find the High Priestess card in your tarot deck. And if you don't have a High Priestess card, or you don't have a tarot deck rather, you can find an image of the High Priestess card. She so resonates with the High Priestess card for me. She's this woman, as I've mentioned in the Mary versus Mary video, it's this figure sitting on a throne, and I'll show it on the screen here, with the Torah in her lap and a moon at her feet, and she's strong, like esoteric knowledge. She keeps the secrets of this knowledge and allows those who come to her access to it. And isn't that what leading and teaching is? We're both sharing the knowledge that we have, but we're also gaining so much knowledge from the people that we share with. That's what I'm doing here. I learn so much from all of you, and the things that you share with me, the different directions that you point me down are magnificent, and I really appreciate it. And having Mary Magdalene in your corner when you are putting yourself in a position like that, you can channel that energy and really stand full in your power, knowing that you are imbued with this sense of agency and strength that comes with Mary Magdalene. So pulling the High Priestess card, having that image. Another thing you can do is meditation. You can check out the meditation that comes out with these episodes on how to tap into that inner priestess Mary Magdalene energy. There are other meditations available out there as well. So if mine doesn't resonate with you, you can definitely find one that will. Another way to connect with her in this capacity is to connect with your body in a ritualistic way. So what I'm talking about here is having some kind of bath, essentially, this beautiful bath where you have the candles and you have the music and you're praying to her. And when you're done, you anoint yourself with oil and you just really treat your whole body as your temple, because as we all have heard a million times, it is. This is where you worship. This is where you pray. And when you can really connect with that aspect of it and treat this incarnate form as the temple that your spirit is riding around in, that can be really powerful in bringing forth that priestess energy and making you just really feel like a fucking priestess, you know? This is also linked to sex magic. So all of this stuff, it weaves in and together. Of course, everything's connected, man. Another way to work with her is to practice setting boundaries and practice using your voice, speaking up. If you're having trouble setting boundaries and trouble speaking up for your needs and desires, or just speaking up in general, calling upon Mary Magdalene can help you embody her strength until you've built your own. This is why we use these archetypes, is to pull the strength that does exist within us already, but to be able to use this beautiful example of that aspect of ourselves that we need to pull into being in the moment, to be able to use that as an inspiration and as a support. One way to practice speaking up is exactly what I'm doing. It's start a podcast, start a YouTube channel, start a blog, do something that is going to make you use your voice. As I say at the end of every episode, use your voice, no matter what that looks like to you. And you know what that looks like to you. I want you to speak up. I want you to be able to express yourselves and to bring these beautiful gifts that you have into the world. And a really important thing about doing that is setting fucking strong boundaries around who you let in, how you're going to use your energy, and how, most importantly, you're going to treat yourself. If you're going to treat your voice like it's not important, then the world will treat your voice like it's not important. But if you give your voice the ground that it needs to root into and then rise up from, you're going to be unstoppable in whatever way that you need to be. I truly believe that. Another way that Mary Magdalene can be very supportive in your life is if you are processing loss. Now, this can be the loss of a job, the loss of a friendship, but very particularly the loss of a loved one, the physical death of a loved one. She lost her best friend. She lost her teacher. And according to some, she lost her husband. And what she did after that was not give up. No, she took what Jesus had been spending most of his life really going after, and she took up his standard and she went forward as well. Oh, it's making me think of Kate Braestrup. There's this book that she wrote, Here If You Need Me. Her husband was a state trooper in Maine, and his goal in life was to become a chaplain. He was hit by a car on just one of his regular days out and killed. And instead of just going along with her life and carrying that grief, Kate decided to become a chaplain. She decided to enter into that space to pick up his standard and move forward as a way of honoring him. And this is what Mary Magdalene did as well. She kept moving with Jesus' words and bringing his teachings into the world. And if you are struggling with a loss right now, you can call upon her for guidance and direction and support in how to do that for yourself. Because these things that we lose, and especially these people that we lose, they've always taught us something. And when we are able to take that something and incorporate it into our beings and utilize it in our lives and let it shine through us, then they're truly never apart from us. They're a part of us and a part of how we touch the world. And in this way, they continue to touch the world through us. Some practical ways that you can do this is to acknowledge your grief. Like, that's the first step, is acknowledge what you're feeling and allow yourself to feel all of it. All of it. I know it can be really scary to feel grief and to let that move through your body. And there is nothing more powerful than letting your feelings be completely felt. That is your superpower as a human being. And your feelings, when you let them move through you, you start to realize that they're not going to kill you. They may feel very overwhelming and at times be completely overwhelming to the point where you can't do anything. You can't move and all you can do is cry or shake or clench. When you're in those moments, I want you to breathe and to just let it move. Let yourself feel it. It's going to feel like you're going to get swallowed up, but I promise you, you will come out the other side. So that's step one. Acknowledge your grief and allow yourself to feel it. And as you're doing this, ask Mary Magdalene to accompany you in this process. You can create an altar for Mary Magdalene and include an object of your grief on the altar, whether it's a picture of someone you've lost or something that they owned or an object that represents some situation that you're grieving. Put that on the altar and spend time there. Again, going back to step one, it's kind of recursive. Feel your grief, and eventually the shape of that grief is going to start changing. It is. And it might not feel like that in the moment, but it will eventually when you just open yourself up to it and don't ignore it. You can also carry a piece of rose quartz that you've sat with and charged with your intention of healing near your heart. That can be really helpful. And another thing, when you're going to sleep, ask Mary Magdalene to send something to you, a message or something in your dreams. Like I mentioned, she got visitations from Jesus in her dreams and in her waking life. And asking Mary Magdalene in this fashion, I believe, is very aligned with her energy. And then record your dreams. I prefer to record mine on a sound recorder on my phone. Some people like to keep a dream journal. Either one, I think that using a sound recorder is a lot easier because I won't get up in the middle of the night, turn on the light, and write something down. Oh no, that's not happening. It's hard enough to use the sound recorder, to be perfectly honest. But I do find it quite easier. And reach out to your community. Like Mary had the apostles to lean on. They knew Jesus. They were in grief too. And she also went out into the broader community, again, sharing Jesus's words. And in this way, she got support from them in her grief. So reaching out to the community, even, of course, asking Mary to assist you in finding the right people that you can reach out to, because not everyone can be trusted with your grief. If you are grieving, I am sure you are very well aware of that. Not everyone knows how to handle it. A lot of people don't. I'm feeling moved here to, again, like, I am open for coaching. Yes, my coaching is focused on if you're feeling stuck or lost, but I think that, like, in these moments of grief, there's a lot of feeling stuck or lost too. So if you need help in this, if you're looking for accompaniment in this and support in this, please do reach out. squeakiescauldron.com/coaching. Okay. And again, you can honor who or what has passed by carrying on their legacy in your words and in your actions. That's an incredibly powerful way to move through that and to take what you've experienced and translate it into something that can help others. So she can be a lot of help in a lot of areas. And the biggest thing about it is just asking her for help. Being able to open your heart enough to say, Mary Magdalene, please come in and help me with this thing. And then allow that process to happen. Allow her to come into you. And trust your instinct. Trust your intuition when it's happening. I know that we can often second guess these things, but you know what's going on. You can trust that. So if you enjoyed this video, please like, comment, subscribe, share this with your bestie, share this with your enemies. Either way, I'm happy. And check out the meditation with Mary that's also been released, as well as the Mary versus Mary video. Also, subscribe to Moon Pages for witchy tips, rituals, custom tarot spreads. It comes out every new and full moon. You can find the link for that in the description as well. Next week, I will be releasing a video about working with knot spells. Another easy, quick technique that you can use to add some oomph to your manifestation and your spell work. So remember to check that out. And in the meantime, take care of yourselves. And until then, my lovelies, as always, use your voice.